It all started with a web of lies so intricate that even I began to believe my own fabrications. My life was a balancing act, teetering precariously between two worlds, two women who thought they were the only one. The truth? It was buried beneath layers of deceit, hidden in plain sight like a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. Week after week, I fed them both stories about late night work meetings, urgent business trips, and unavoidable obligations. Birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, all sacrificed at the altar of my greed and insatiable need for control. I told myself it wasn't personal, it was just convenient. But deep down, I knew I was playing a dangerous game, one where the stakes grew higher with every passing day. Then came the first crack in my carefully constructed facade. One evening, as I sat on the couch scrolling through my phone, my wife walked in unannounced, a rare occurrence since I had conditioned her to expect solitude during our family nights. She glanced over my shoulder, her eyes narrowing as she spotted something alarming: hotel receipts. Dozens of them, scattered across my email inbox like breadcrumbs leading straight to my betrayal. "What's this?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and disbelief. I froze, scrambling for an excuse, but the look in her eyes said it all. She already knew. Those receipts weren't just pieces of paper. They were evidence of my double life. Proof that I had been living a lie right under her nose. But if my wife's discovery sent shockwaves through my world, what happened next nearly brought the entire house of cards crashing down. Across town, my girlfriend, the woman I promised would soon become my future, was growing increasingly suspicious. I had spun her a tale so convincing that even I almost believed it. The divorce papers were filed, the lawyers were ready, and all we needed was a little more patience. But patience has its limits, especially when you're lying to someone who trusts you completely. One night, as we lay together in bed, she turned to me with tears in her eyes. "Are you really leaving her?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "Because if you're not—" She trailed off, but the unspoken threat hung heavy in the air. That moment should have been my wake-up call, but instead I doubled down, feeding her another lie, another promise I never intended to keep. Little did I know these cracks in my deception were converging into a storm far greater than I could have imagined. The walls were closing in, and I was running out of places to hide. The unraveling of my carefully constructed web began on an ordinary Tuesday evening, a night that would later haunt me like a recurring nightmare. It started innocently enough. My phone battery died while I was out with Diana, my girlfriend, during one of our rare, special dates. Desperate to keep the evening going, I borrowed her charger and plugged it in without giving it a second thought. But fate has a cruel sense of humor. As soon as the screen lit up, there it was, the lock screen photo of Sarah, my wife. The moment Diana's eyes landed on that image, time seemed to freeze. Her face transformed from confusion to disbelief, then hardened into something far more dangerous: betrayal. "What is this?" she demanded, her voice trembling but sharp as a blade. "Who is this woman? And why is her picture on your phone?" I could feel the blood drain from my face as panic surged through me. My mind raced, searching for an excuse, any plausible lie that could salvage the situation. But Diana wasn't stupid. She had seen too much already. She grabbed the phone before I could react, scrolling through recent messages and photos. Each tap of her finger felt like a hammer driving nails into my coffin. There were receipts, texts, even screenshots of conversations between Sarah and me, all glaring evidence of my double life. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to either of us, Sarah had been piecing together her own puzzle. For weeks, she had noticed inconsistencies in my stories, strange absences, and those damning hotel bills. She hadn't confronted me yet, but she had quietly gathered everything she needed to prove my infidelity. What neither woman knew at the time was that they weren't alone in their suspicions. Both had stumbled upon fragments of each other's existence. Sarah found cryptic messages from someone named Dee, while Diana discovered hints of another woman in my life. They didn't know each other's names or faces, but they both sensed the shadow of another person lurking behind my lies. As Diana stared at the incriminating evidence on my phone, I realized the gravity of what was happening. This wasn't just a slip-up. This was the collapse of everything I had worked so hard to maintain. My heart pounded in my chest as sweat trickled down my back. "Diana, please let me explain," I stammered, reaching out to take the phone from her. But she jerked away, her expression cold and resolute. "Explain what? That you've been lying to me this whole time? That you're married to someone else?" Her words hit me like a freight train, leaving me breathless and scrambling for control. Yet no matter how hard I tried, the truth was undeniable. Every word I spoke only dug the hole deeper. And then came the final blow, the realization that I wasn't dealing with just one angry woman anymore. Diana pulled up a text thread where Sarah had mentioned plans for dinner later that week. "So, she knows about me?" she asked, her voice eerily calm now. Before I could answer, she continued, "Does she know about her?" Her piercing gaze bore into mine, stripping away every layer of pretense until I was left exposed, raw, and utterly powerless. It dawned on me then. They might not have met, but they were already connected by the wreckage of my deceit. I tried to play it off, to convince myself and them that this was all some terrible misunderstanding, but the fear in my gut told me otherwise. My hands shook as I fumbled for explanations, my voice cracking under the weight of guilt. I had spent years juggling these two lives, thinking I was untouchable, invincible. But now, standing there trapped between their silent accusations, I understood the true cost of my arrogance. This wasn't just the end of my relationships, it was the beginning of my downfall. The revelation of my betrayal was only the beginning of what would become a meticulously orchestrated nightmare. After Diana discovered Sarah's photo on my phone, she didn't immediately confront me, at least not in the way I expected. Instead, she retreated into silence, her mind racing with questions and suspicions. What neither Sarah nor I realized at the time was that Diana had already begun piecing together the puzzle of my deceit. Late one night while I lay asleep beside her, oblivious to the storm brewing just beyond my reach, Diana opened her laptop and began searching for answers. She scoured social media platforms, looking for any trace of the woman whose face haunted her thoughts. It wasn't long before she stumbled upon Sarah's profile. A simple Google search using details from my messages revealed everything. Meanwhile, Sarah, unaware of Diana's existence, had also taken matters into her own hands. Fueled by mounting evidence of my lies, she created burner accounts across multiple platforms, hoping to uncover more about the mysterious Dee who kept appearing in cryptic texts. It was during one of these late-night investigations that their paths crossed. Not directly, but through mutual connections and shared hashtags. A comment here, a tagged photo there. It all seemed innocuous at first, but as they dug deeper, patterns emerged. They noticed eerily similar phrases in my excuses, identical promises whispered sweetly into different ears. The realization hit them like a ton of bricks. They weren't alone. Someone else was living this twisted reality alongside them. Their initial contact came disguised as an accidental message. Diana, posing as a random follower, sent Sarah a direct message asking if she knew anything about a man matching my description. At first, Sarah hesitated. Was this some kind of trap? But curiosity got the better of her, and after exchanging cautious pleasantries, they agreed to meet virtually under the guise of discussing work. That video call changed everything. As they spoke, comparing notes and sharing screenshots, the full extent of my treachery unfolded before them. Every lie, every manipulation, every empty promise, it was all laid bare. Their anger quickly turned into something far more dangerous: determination. Over the next few weeks, they devised a plan so intricate it could rival the schemes of seasoned detectives. They communicated solely through encrypted apps, erasing conversations after each exchange to avoid detection. Their goal was clear: gather irrefutable proof of my infidelity and ensure I paid the ultimate price. Diana played her part flawlessly, feigning ignorance whenever I tried to justify my absences or downplay suspicious behavior. Meanwhile, Sarah pretended to forgive me, lulling me into a false sense of security. Together, they became an unstoppable force, united by vengeance and a shared desire for justice. The most brilliant stroke of their plan involved Diana pretending to fall for my elaborate scheme to leave Sarah. Each conversation was carefully scripted, every reaction calculated. When I told her about my supposed plans to file divorce papers, she responded with just the right mix of excitement and skepticism. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" she asked one evening, her voice tinged with mock concern. "I mean, leaving your wife isn't something you can take back." Her words were a test, designed to gauge how far I'd go to keep up the charade. To my eternal regret, I passed with flying colors. "Of course I'm ready," I replied, my tone dripping with conviction. "You're the only one I want, Diana. Always have been." Unbeknownst to me, every word I spoke was being recorded. Diana carried a small device hidden in her purse, capturing every confession, every incriminating detail. She even managed to plant additional bugs around my apartment, ensuring nothing escaped their notice. Meanwhile, Sarah worked tirelessly behind the scenes, gathering financial records, emails, and other documents that painted a damning picture of my double life. By the time they were done, they had amassed enough evidence to bury me 10 times over. As the weeks passed, I grew increasingly confident in my ability to manipulate both women. Diana's apparent willingness to wait gave me hope that our relationship might finally move forward. Sarah's forgiveness, though reluctant, reassured me that I still held some measure of control over her emotions. Little did I know my arrogance was sealing my fate. Each lie I spun only tightened the noose around my neck, drawing me closer to the inevitable reckoning. By the time they decided to execute the final phase of their plan, I was completely blindsided. Diana arranged a meeting under the pretense of discussing wedding venues, a cruel irony given the circumstances. As we sat together in a quiet cafe, she subtly guided the conversation toward topics guaranteed to elicit incriminating responses. "Do you think Sarah will fight for custody of the house?" she asked casually, watching my reaction closely. Panic surged through me, but I forced myself to remain calm. "Why would she?" I replied, laughing nervously. "She knows it's better this way. For everyone." With each passing moment, the trap closed tighter until there was no escape. The plan to expose my web of lies reached its crescendo in ways I could never have anticipated. Diana, with her calm demeanor masking a storm of fury, played her role to perfection. Each conversation she had with me was carefully orchestrated, every question designed to extract more damning confessions. What started as casual discussions about our future together quickly spiraled into revelations that made my blood run cold. Late one evening, as we sat on the couch under the pretense of watching TV, she turned to me and said, "Tell me again why you're doing this for us. Why leave your wife now?" Her tone was gentle, almost tender, but her eyes burned with purpose. Unbeknownst to me, the small recorder hidden in her pocket captured every word. "I'm leaving her because she doesn't understand me like you do," I replied, my voice laced with false sincerity. She's become a stranger. But you're my everything." The words flowed easily, rehearsed over months of deceit. Yet as I spoke, Diana pressed further. "And what about all those nights you spent at home? Were they really so unbearable?" That simple question unraveled something deep within me. In my desperation to convince her, I confessed things I had buried long ago. "Every moment I was with her, I wished it was you," I admitted, my voice trembling. "I hated being there. It was suffocating. All I wanted was to be free, to be with you." As the words spilled out, I felt a strange sense of relief, unaware that each syllable was sealing my fate. Meanwhile, Sarah had been digging deeper into my financial records. Using access codes I thought only I knew, she uncovered a secret bank account, a digital vault filled with funds I had siphoned away over the years. At first glance, it seemed like just another piece of evidence, but closer inspection revealed something far more sinister. There were transfers to unfamiliar accounts, payments labeled vaguely as consulting fees or personal expenses, as one name appeared repeatedly. A woman named Rachel. Who was she? And why had I been funneling money to her? Sarah's hands shook as she pieced together the implications. This wasn't just infidelity, it was betrayal compounded by greed. But the final blow came when they discovered the messages. Hundreds of them, scattered across multiple devices, conversations with women whose names neither Sarah nor Diana recognized painted a picture of a man who didn't just juggle two lives, but thrived on chaos. "Hey, missed you last night," read one text. "When will you visit again?" Another message teased, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Remember, no ties, no strings." Each line was a dagger, cutting through any remaining illusions of loyalty. They found schedules detailing meetings disguised as work trips, photos exchanged in moments of intimacy, and even plans for future rendezvous. My double life wasn't just a facade, it was an empire built on lies. Diana and Sarah shared these findings during their encrypted calls, their voices trembling with a mix of rage and disbelief. "He made us believe we were special," Diana whispered, her voice breaking. "But we were just pawns in his game." Sarah agreed, adding, "And he thought he'd get away with it forever." Their anger transformed into resolve. Every piece of evidence strengthened their case. Every confession added fuel to the fire. By the time they finished compiling everything, they had constructed a dossier so damning that it could ruin not just my personal life, but my professional reputation as well. Yet, despite the overwhelming weight of the evidence against me, I remained oblivious. I continued to weave my tangled web, believing I was untouchable. Diana's feigned affection lulled me into complacency, while Sarah's silence gave me false hope. Little did I know every step I took was leading me closer to the abyss. Each recorded confession, each transaction traced back to my secret accounts, and every incriminating message formed a chain that would soon bind me completely. As the days passed, the tension grew palpable. Diana began dropping subtle hints, testing how far I'd go to maintain my charade. You know, she said one day, her voice light but probing, a man like you must have contingency plans. What happens if things don't work out? With either of them? Her question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken accusations. I laughed nervously, brushing it off as paranoia. Don't worry, I assured her. Everything is under control. But nothing was under control, not anymore. The unraveling of my life reached its climax in a series of devastating blows that left me reeling. Sarah, the woman I once called my wife, wasted no time in taking legal action. Within days of discovering the extent of my betrayal, she filed for divorce, demanding an unequal division of assets. 70% to her, 30% to me. Her lawyer presented a damning case, armed with the evidence Diana and Sarah had meticulously gathered. Every secret bank account, every recorded confession, every incriminating text message was laid bare in court documents. The judge granted her request without hesitation, citing my egregious breach of trust. As if losing most of what I owned wasn't enough, the financial strain sent shockwaves through every aspect of my existence. But the humiliation didn't stop there. Diana, fueled by righteous fury, decided to expose my deceit on social media. She uploaded screenshots of our conversations, audio clips of my confessions, and even photos of gifts I'd given her, all while tagging my workplace. Within hours, the post went viral, igniting outrage across platforms. My employer, eager to distance themselves from scandal, terminated my contract immediately. We cannot tolerate such unethical behavior, read their official statement. Overnight, I became a pariah, ridiculed online and ostracized professionally. Friends stopped answering my calls, colleagues avoided eye contact, and strangers judged me based on headlines they barely understood. To make matters worse, both Sarah and Diana sought restraining orders against me. The court granted their requests swiftly, forbidding me from contacting them or coming within 500 feet of their homes. Each order felt like another nail in my coffin, isolating me further from the world I thought I controlled. I tried to argue, to explain, but no one listened. My pleas fell on deaf ears as society turned its back on me. Even simple tasks like grocery shopping became fraught with anxiety. Everywhere I went, I feared recognition. People whispered behind my back, pointed fingers, and snapped photos to share online. I had become a cautionary tale, a symbol of betrayal and arrogance. By the time the dust settled, I realized how irrevocably I had destroyed my life. My marriage was over, my career in ruins, and my reputation tarnished beyond repair. Yet the worst part wasn't the material losses. It was the loneliness. For the first time, I truly understood the weight of my actions. But it was too late. There was no redemption, no second chances. I had been stripped of everything, reduced to nothing more than a shadow of the man I used to be. The final chapter of my downfall was as merciless as it was inevitable. Stripped of everything, my marriage, my career, and what remained of my dignity, I found myself drowning in legal fees that seemed to multiply overnight. With no other option, I was forced to sell the house I once called home. The same house where Sarah and I had built memories now tarnished by betrayal. Each room echoed with ghosts of the past as movers carted away furniture, leaving behind empty spaces that mirrored the void within me. The proceeds barely covered the mounting costs of lawyers and court settlements, a bitter reminder of how recklessly I had gambled with my life. Meanwhile, the internet continued its relentless assault on what little reputation I had left. Memes mocking my deceit went viral. Hashtags calling for my public shaming trended worldwide, and strangers dissected every detail of my scandal like vultures circling their prey. Even walking down the street became an ordeal. People pointed fingers, snapped photos, or simply stared with undisguised contempt. Social media platforms became arenas of hate, where users debated whether I deserved even basic human decency. "Let him rot," one commenter wrote. Another added, "Good riddance to trash like him." Their words cut deeper than any blade, isolating me further from society. Desperate to escape the suffocating judgment, I packed what few belongings I could salvage into a beat-up car and fled to another city under the cover of night. It wasn't freedom. It was exile. Starting over felt impossible when the weight of my sins followed me everywhere. Every glance from strangers felt accusatory. Every conversation laced with suspicion. I rented a cramped studio apartment in a rundown neighborhood, far removed from the life I once knew. Yet, even there, whispers of my infamy reached me through news articles and online forums. My name had become synonymous with betrayal, a cautionary tale whispered among friends and colleagues alike. In the end, I realized there was no escaping the wreckage I had created. Redemption was a distant dream, and forgiveness an unattainable luxury. Some people leave scars, others leave lessons. Burn and reborn stories that break you, then rebuild you.